The Great Karnak. Anyway, still doing 17. When you're putting in like 1,000 square mile a sprinkler system, you'd have to employ a lot of employees. So these Mexicans, or not so much Mexican, but the South Americans that are wanting to come in, they'd have a job out in the woods. Some of them aren't too skilled, and it'd take I don't know what the plastic, some sort of space-age plastic water line that might have to be out there for 300 or 400 years to get efficiency out of it. The woods have already been burnt, so you'd have the Arbor Day Society going in there and planting new trees and putting in this new water line and electric line to control the computers to tell the sprinkler system when to turn on in case of fire. And you didn't employ all these Mexicans or South Americans coming in that are looking for work to put this thousands of miles of network in the woods. And maybe every 15 or 20 foot you'd lay a water line, because maybe every 25 foot this thing would spray water out on the brush, because every 25 foot you'd have brush, so you'd have a water line that on opposite direction would spray water to put out brush, because that's where the fire would be. And then, so you'd have a water line in a cube pattern that would put out the fire, so you could put out a fire in case of a fire where a lightning strike could be. So the Arbor Day, I think it's called Arbor Day Society, goes out and replants the forest where the fire was. And when you're doing that, you put in the water lines, and you put like electric lines that will last to run the computer brain. I don't know how long a computer brain would last that would tell when to turn the sprinklers on or where to switch it, so you're not switching the water lines into where there's no fire, but it switched the water lines off and on into the area where the fire was, because chances are you wouldn't have water in the lines, so the water would freeze and break the water lines. You'd have air in the water lines up to the point where there was a fire, and then when there was a fire, the computer would turn switches to get water in where the fire was and turn the sprinkler system on to put out the fire before it got big, when it was just a little fire, before it got into the big fire. And like I say, in times of peace, they say if you print too much money, the money's no good. But in times of war, if you don't print enough money, you lose the war and then the money's no good. So I'm going to print enough money, and I won't print money. You just get paid on a card when you do your work, and you just spend the money off the card. You go someplace and spending money off the card. But I'll put enough money on the card, you get paid enough money that it'll be worth your while. And this money won't come from anywhere. That's like, it don't take anything to put money on a card. Although when you put money on a card at Walmart, you give the money to Walmart and they put it on the card. But when you get paid, it'll just automatically go on the card. So this money will come from nowhere, and when they're built, you may get a job in the factory. I don't know what this water line or the connections will be made out of. Somebody else, I imagine NASA, knows some material that will last in the woods. It may have to be buried underground a ways and then put on top to spray out maybe 10 or 15 foot to get the fire in sort of an oscillating spray pattern that will saturate the brush in case of fires. You may want it, so in a dry time, to come on and moisturize the brush so it won't be brittle or be impossible to get on fire. The computer could decide, and the forestry service could decide to do it ahead of time. But anyways, you'd employ these people coming up from down south to put this in ahead of time. It may be thousands and thousands and thousands of square miles ahead of time to put it in play. But then we got park districts that's that big. You'd want to protect. You could do the park district first, and then just general area where the housing is. You go in where the housing is, and it's everywhere. It may be a big plan, but sometimes you got to plan big.